Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Under the Hood, Driven by Detail. This afternoon, we are joined, as always, by a resident, Keith Lennon from Keith Lennon Motors in Dublin. Delighted to have Kieran Layden from BG Products Ireland and also Chris Nolan from Nolan Motors in Balbriggan. Lads, thanks very much for taking the time to join us again. This afternoon, we would like to, it was probably tonight, probably by the time this is sent out, probably let's talk a wee bit about misconceptions in the motor trade, debunking myths, and Chris, have you any stories of people come in or?
How long have you got? Well, we had a phone call actually on Thursday. Fella's never been into our garage before, and he was obviously in another garage, or might have been two garages, but he rang up. He said, "I want to get me DPF cleaned," and I didn't take the phone call. Robbie did. I was just listening to it, And Robbie says, if you listening to the customer anyway, you want to get his DPF cleaned, how much will it cost to clean it? Blah, blah, blah. And Robbie says to him, well, I don't think cleaning the DPF is going to sort your issue. So the customer was obviously given the wrong information, told him that if he cleans his DPF, it'll fix the car, So Robbie says, look, we'll have to book it in and carry out an assessment to find out why it's getting blocked first. Because yes, we can clean it out for you, but it could be a week, 2 weeks, a month. You'll be back here again with the DPF blocked again, So I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. People don't understand what the actual DPF is there for, Like, it's quite a simple thing. It's only a filter. Like, people think it's some kind of spaceship, But it's couldn't be more simple, like, It's what's going on around it. We were trying to explain to the customer, but he wasn't given that information in the last garage. He was told it just needs to be cleaned. It's going to cost X amount. So he was the type of customer that was shopping around to see who would give him the best price in cleaning the DPF. But I told him, I says, I'm not going to clean your DPF. I says, I'll find out why it's getting blocked for you first, and then we can fix that problem and then get the DPF cleaned for you. That's if the DPF is still okay and it's not cracked or whatever, But I think a lot of customers don't understand, Not all garages, but there's some garages out there still don't understand what the DPF is actually for, which I think is crazy. I think... Yeah, well, it can be ignorance as well. Like, you just need to go on to YouTube and spend 15 minutes listening to a technician talking about how a DPF system works, what it's for. It's not a very complex system anyway. It's quite simple, right?
At the same time, you sort of have to acknowledge, when I was serving my time, there was a definitive line between mechanics, and there was mechanics, and then the sort of technician mechanic, where we've all sort of fallen into now. And there's some absolute geniuses out there, and we all know them, that work on engines. And they literally just you could just pull an engine apart, leave the block there in the head and everything else in a bucket, and they will pull and build the thing and come back a couple of hours later and the thing's built. No, they might have never seen the engine before and put it together, but they won't have a clue about how that, and they can't mentally grasp how electronically that works. Now, that's not a problem. Equally, there's a lot of men that are more into the computer end of it, the technology and the wiring, and we asked them, because I've had it here myself, we tried to explain to one lad how a differential works in a four-wheel drive system. He couldn't grasp it. Now, we spoke about electrical systems and it made sense. And yeah, you could see, click, 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 click. Talk about the mechanical end of it. Oh, so the mechanical end just wasn't
Horses for courses.
Exactly. But I think what's wrong is, I said it before when I went up to see a plastic surgeon there before Christmas to get a lump in my back. I said, while I'm here, this side sometimes I'm putting it up, turned out to be just tiredness. But I says, will you have a look at that? Me thinking we need a bit of a nip and tuck, and sure, while I'm here, and the health insurance, well, the health in a bow tie. Yeah, the health insurance is paying for it. Let's go for everything here. Let's get the full service. So he turned around, he said this thing, and it stuck with me what he said. He says, and this is a fucking plastic surgeon, like, he knows his stuff, right? And I'm one of the best in Ireland. That is outside of my skill set, right? And he didn't touch it. And I said, I'll have a quick peep to it. Yeah, I'll refer you to such a person. Now, he could do it surely, but because that wasn't his thing, and I think what's wrong is there's an awful lot of mechanics that aren't saying that, they're taking on stuff that's outside their skill set. And it doesn't mean they're any less than mechanic. There's some geniuses of mechanics in this country. We all know them. And but likewise, I'd be more, personally myself, I'd be more into the electrical end of it. Don't get me wrong, I know how an engine works and I know when I can build it on that, but I'm not interested as much in it. You come in here with a wiring fault, I'm on it. You come in, as you would have shown other lads over the years here, wiring faults, and they'd run into the door. They nearly call in sick over a wiring fault. Whereas, again, as you say, horses for courses. So I think a lot of mechanics, a lot of people expect, I think we probably need to break up garages more to what we do. Are you a service centre? Are you a diagnostic centre? If you're a diagnostic centre, you're going to be more expensive than your service centre. If you're a service centre, don't be getting in there expecting the sun, moon and stars, because, you know what I mean? Are you an engine rebuild centre? If you're an engine rebuild centre, stick to it.
I think you see a lot of it. Like you've done it there with Volkswagen Specialist. You know that people are taking the route of specifying in a certain brand or range of brands as opposed to trying to do all things to everything. And again, we're currently still doing all things to everything because of the sales department. Like I can't sell a Fiesta, as I said before, and then have it, we don't service that. But it is getting harder.
That's easier, I think, when you're in a city and you've got the population and the density of that. But I think when I'm traveling around the country, I don't think it's as easy for certain garages to do that. And you often do, like you'll go to somewhere remote in the country and there'll be a Land Rover specialist. We won't mention the war. But, or you'll find a
They can have them.
BMW. But
I'm driving one at the minute.
Yeah.
But
He's going to need a lift home.
That's why I was late. That's why I was late.
The sat nav sent him to fucking Belfast.
it's a long story, my own driving it.
But I think it's great. Like I've seen the transition in your place over the last couple of years, and it's amazing to see what you're doing. And even here, where you see the way it's gone, and I think with technology and the way everything is, when you're talking about, a guy who specializes in one thing and another guy who specializes in diagnostics or whatever, or electrics, I think that you've become that person in the particular brands that you're doing. Whereas when the faults come in, it's not taking you as long because you've seen it before. It makes it easier. Stocking your parts becomes easier.
You're stuck on less.
Yeah,
You're buying
100%.
less too.
So like, and I think you've probably seen the same, have you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like we've all spoke about it loads of times. It's hard to be everything to everybody. It's nearly impossible, especially in today's aftermarket. It's impossible, like, to have that tool for everything, to have that information system for everything, to have that diagnostic subscription for everything. Like to have the staff to be able to work and like to do every aspect that needs to be done in every car. Yeah, like all the systems are the same, like they all work the same. Certain components are in different positions than others, or their wiring might be a bit different than other manufacturers. But when you're trying to do 10, 15 brands, like it's different for you because you're selling cars, you're more about car sales, garage and after sales and stuff like that. Whereas I'm trying to specialise in certain brands, so I can offer that customer everything the dealer can offer them. I can offer you that on your vehicle, but I couldn't do that if I was going to specialise in 10, 12 brands of car. I couldn't. I'd be offering somebody something I can't deliver, because with Citroen, Peugeot, Renault, you can't get the dealer level subscriptions. It's near impossible, especially for the likes of Renault. You just can't get it.
We had the option to get it, and as you say, it's one of those things. It's like the bloody unicorn. You know what I mean? It's
near impossible. I know Peugeot, Citroen is a little bit easier than Renault. Renault is impossible to get. Like
we were getting Renault, right?
It's
and
very hard.
Around. It's very hard, and Renault Dyno make it exceptionally difficult. But we sort of pulled back, and we said, "Do we really want this?" Because we're back to the thing of you have to look at your market, right? And the thing I find about the typical Reynolds, and this is not knocking anyone, right? Reynolds make a great van, but the people that buy the 15-year-old Reynolds, right? They're buying it because it's cheap, right? And if you're investing big money in around diagnostics, and sure, you're going to be the same price, if not more expensive than the dealer now, because you're going to be spending more on training and everything else. When someone comes into you with a 15-year-old Renault and there's a wiring issue, and they can be a shit show for wiring issues, right? And you lift the box, and all the wires are the same colours, so you get different markings on them. Is that person with the 15-year-old Renault going to want to spend the same amount of money as the person with the 15-year-old Land Rover? And without tarring everyone with the same brush, 99% of the time it's a no, isn't it? Like
Yeah, definitely. And then, like, I had a customer called in yesterday actually, and she had a fairly new Peugeot. She called in. She was just asked. She said, "Look, I'm having an issue with the LED screen on the car. No, the screen on them is like a 7-inch telly on the front of the new Peugeots. It had just gone blank. Right,
it's the best thing that could happen.
only 3 year old, right? It's only 3 year old. So if she had asked me that 3 years ago, I'd have said, yeah, I'll have a look at that. But like, I'm giving her, I would have been giving her false hope, really, because there's nothing I would have been able to do. So I just said to her, look, you'll have to go to Peugeot with it. I don't have the platform here to have a look at it. I don't have the subscription. The car could need the software update. It's only a couple of years old, so more than likely might need a software upgrade. I don't know. But the only people that can do that is Peugeot and Citroen. I can't do it.
We have an example of two Peugeot, right? One that's gone on, and a very good customer and a good friend of ours here. We Peugeot 307, 308. It's in the car's 07, 08, right? Between 07 to 10, that era. And they, wire and fall come into it. And I spoke to guys with a great relationship with Peugeot. We're very lucky in Dundalk because we have some really, really good dealers that we work very well with, and Peugeot being one of them. And the guys in instance said, look, this here's doing this, an intermittent fault, blah, blah, blah. What do you mean? I think it's either one of these things, and they turn around and tell you, and this is where everyone needs good relationships. Yeah, we sell loads of these, the fuse box unit, and he says, right, you sell loads of them. What if it's the BSI? Well, if it's the BSI, then it's going to be this, but we sell loads of these for the problems you're having. So I said, all right, well, look, said to the customer, look, this is the most likely thing that's causing this. I've gone through the TSB database, troubleshooting, or the technical service bulletins, gone through them, spoke to the dealer, everyone's pointing at this. Let's fit this part. It was near 500 quid. I'll fit this first, but I can't guarantee, and I don't like that. You don't like fitting a 500 quid part and going, it might work, right? But from what I spoke to the dealer and whatnot and done my research, this is the first port of call. Got the part fitted, the part made no difference, right? Then you're into BSI, 1100 quid. Then it has to be called in by Peugeot. So all of a sudden then, I've took on a job that we've typically just written the car off because it's an intermittent fault that's going to cost more than you actually buy another one of them for. We had another lady come in only this week with a Peugeot 207, and it's a Christmas tree in the dash, it's a CAN bus fault. We've done the usual things, diagnostic, no CAN bus communication, which is pretty much noise in the CAN bus line, right? So which one's, something's causing it somewhere. No communication with the ABS unit. So the typical thing you'd do there first, disconnect the ABS computer and see if the arrest don't go back to normal and only have an ABS fault. No, still at all other faults. Disconnect the power steering module. No, everything else is there. Then you're into BSI, fuse box. The dash just showed up a heap of lines saying
and then you're 4 hours deep into it.
You're 4 hours deep into it, and the car, you're no further on. So this is where, I know, Kieran, you say it's hard to narrow down to one brand when you're out in the country or out in the sticks where you don't have the
But you can narrow it, even like, see the way you're doing all brands, you can narrow it down to the type of work you're doing.
Yeah, correct.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You can narrow it, but still work on everything.
Yeah. Service everything.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I've made the decision to be a specialist. So in German vehicles. So I want to get to the stage where there's nothing in my place but German vehicles. And that's no reflection on my other customers that drive other cars. We still service and maintain other vehicles because those people have been coming to me 10 years, say. Right? So, well, like, because some of my customers, their husband might drive a BMW, his missus drives a 3-year-old Fiesta or something. I still take it in and service and all that, but something complicated that I need dealer level platform, I'll just say it has to go to the dealer. I can't do it. But what I've started to do is the type of work that's coming in, and say if the car is really old, like most of the people that are driving those type of cars, they don't have a lot of money to spend, and I understand that, but I can't spend the time I want to spend on those cars, like, because regardless whether your car is 2003 or it's a year old, 2 year old, I still spend the same amount of time. We have a system for servicing a vehicle. That system is employed on every vehicle we service, whether it's 15-year-old or whether it's 2-year-old. So the labour charge is still the same. So you get a man in with, say, a 04 Corolla, it's in for a major service, you're handing him a bill for 400 or 500 quid, and he's looking going, "But I could have got it done across the road for 200 quid. Why are you this price?" And it's because you're doing things that little bit different, but it's employed to the car. It doesn't matter what year it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It makes,
it all boils back to it's hard to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
Well, you know, like it's funny you say the thing about price. Like when I go into your workshop, Chris, like it's pretty impressive. That you know, no different to here. And when you go around the country and you see, like I know you shut down at Christmas and you do a big clean out. You know, like it's gutted, it's cleaned. I think
He's
one
got
of the
sparkles in the floor paint.
yeah.
You look at the floor and say, "What's that? Sparkles."
I think that when you go around and like I've listened to Andy Sava, and I've actually met Andy Sava in your garage as well, where he's doing continual training and stuff like that. You know, that level of service that you're providing, and when people come in, I think that customer is prepared to spend that bit more when they go to your garage. I've been in your area where you look across the way and you can't walk into the other garages because there's stuff being held together with sellotape. You know, there's a big difference between your clientele and you go 100 meters down the road and a different clientele because of, you know, the perception, number one, the level of service that you're doing, and your third generation garage. You know, that's huge, you know, so you've been doing something right for a long time. And I think when you go around the country and you see the garages, the cleaner the garage, the more premium the garage is, the better quality of cars that are coming into the garage as well. The more money that customer is prepared to spend on that car for preventative maintenance, like we talk about, you know, because a lot of what we do on a daily basis is try and educate the customer that, look, it's your decision. You can let it break and then try and work your way backwards. It's going to cost a lot more. Or you can maintain it the best way possible so that you protect the garage. The car doesn't drive out of here. A light is thrown up on the dash. The car performs the way it's supposed to until the next service. They're not going to go and badmouth the garage. The car is going to run better, and the confidence builds in that garage then. Like if you service a car and they're a new customer and the light comes on in the dash 2 weeks after servicing the car, the first thing that customer does is they lose a little bit of confidence in the garage and they question themselves as to why they brought the car to you. Now, they come back to you. It's how you rectify that mistake and bring the customer on the journey, I think, is crucial as well. But the better the image the garage has, the cleaner the garage is, you know, the presentation of the garage, I find the clientele rise up. When you are down on the ground with the 15-year-old car that's been neglected all the years, we were talking
It's
about
not just
welding.
the 15-year-old cars
Yeah.
now as well. Like some of the modern stuff is crazy. It's with
Well,
neglect.
the newer technology is mental, but even from a customer that buys a newer car, that's a different type of customer. The problems are different versus the older customer that has the sills that are all corroded and the welding jobs and the exhaust hanging out of it, and, you know, 4 different brand tires on the car because they went to the budget shop. You know, the customer, it's funny, like one customer I deal with down in Galway, any new customer, he does a walk around the car and the first thing he does is look at the tax disc and go, is it in tax? Is it insured? Because that customer can either afford that or they can't. It's amazing the amount of cars that you find where the tax disc is out and they go, Jesus, you know, who is the customer, and qualifying the customer. But, you know, newer.
It's a hard one to call that because, do you mean we're in, especially, you know, in times that we're currently in, it's never been more expensive to run a car, ever.
Yeah, well, I think
So you don't want your people come in, right? And we see it here. We have a lady come in here a few weeks ago in a wee Toyota, and the filler neck had rusted on the for the fuel. She put petrol in and ran straight out in the ground. She had an absolute conniption because the garage she went to 6 months ago serviced it and didn't see that. And I said,
It's not the
well,
garage's fault,
it's not the
really.
garage's fault. The thing, it was hidden under. Like I had to dig for 15 minutes to get at the thing. It's not part of the service to pull the car apart and do not a visual or diagnostic health
I
check,
think, like,
structural health check.
in the motor trade, it's look, parts of it are never going to change. You're always going to get that customer that thinks when you service the car that you have pulled that car down to the bare bones and you've seen every nook and cranny, wire, everything in the car. Like, some people just don't understand. They just think, "Well, I got my car serviced, that covers everything. It's like a lifetime warranty," some people think they're getting when you service that car. You don't understand that there's hundreds of components, kilometers of wires. Like, they just don't really grasp it. So I do get where some people are coming from, but when you actually sit them down and explain to them, you know what I mean? But you're always
It's time
going to
consuming, isn't it, though?
yeah, but you're always going to get that customer. You will always get that customer. But I think I've learned over the last few years, when you're running your business a certain way, you attract a certain type of clientele. The clientele that has been dragging your business down sort of disappears, because they no longer come to you because, first of all, they don't like the prices you're charging. And sometimes when people walk into a place and they say, "This looks expensive," because it's clean, it's tidy, it's professional looking. There's no fellas wandering around with smokes in their mouth and places manky dirty, and you know what I mean, there's heaps of shit lying around everywhere, you know what I mean? They look and see, well, I know what I'm going to pay here. Whereas you go into a nice, clean, tidy environment, you look, I'm in a proper place here. You're going to get charged, and people sort of get that. So you sort of attract a different type of customer. But I think we'll always get that work that we don't want and sort of come in. You'll always get that one customer that's, no matter what you do, is not going to be happy. And I think that goes across every business. No matter whether you're in construction or whether you're in the motor trade, or whether you run a corner shop, it doesn't matter. They're just things we have to deal with as business owners.
But
And we always will.
I think people need, and look, we don't realise that currently at the minute there's a massive shortage of technicians. There's a shortage of everything in Ireland. You can't even get someone to make you a cup of coffee anymore. But because there's massive shortage of technicians, we could easily bring in 10 untrained people here and stick an extra wedge, another few lifts in, and lower the price for servicing, and become a fast turnaround and go for that.
You'd have nothing but headaches.
It's
You'd
not
have
we
nothing
don't-
but
we-
headaches.
We don't want to. Listen, people come in and it's hard for me to talk about this because I say 99.99% of our customer base are fabulous. We're really lucky. They come in, they want the BG service, they want what we recommend, and they don't have trouble. Ian said this to us here. Ian's here a month, and well, Ian, what are you thinking here? You happy here? He said, well, the biggest thing I noticed, he's the last couple of garages I worked in, they have BG on the shelf, but they only use it when there's a problem. I've never used as much of it in my life as I've used in the last few weeks here. You're putting in everything, but the cars that are coming in are only coming in for service, maintenance, brakes, time back. There's no turbos, there's nothing broken like that.
I was just going to talk about that. Like, my lads use BG every single day. Every day it's used as part of our service in the garage now. I won't service a car without using it. It's just part of the price. When I give you a price to service your car, it's included in the price. We use it on everything. And what I've noticed is, and even before I started using BG, because I always used good oils, I was always adamant somebody would come back after 15k to get their car serviced. Like, in other garages, they're pulling engines asunder, DPFs are always blocked, turbos shitting themselves. I'm not saying I don't do a turbo. Of course I do. I do the odd turbo, but
Not as much.
very few. And any of my customers is coming to me 6-7 years turbos. I've had BMWs with 250, 300,000 original turbo. Car still running beautiful. No carbonisation around injectors, none of that stuff. Because it's all down to just maintaining the car properly, regular oil changes, good oil. And then with the BG, it's a game changer. Like a game changer. Like I was telling Kieran there a while ago, I've a customer with an X5. We've had him using BG since he bought the car. He does massive mileage, right? So he's had the car serviced 4 times in the last year, like oil changes. We took the oil filter out, like he'd 20 odd thousand, 23,000 since his last oil change. Took the oil filter out, like brand new. Drained the oil out of the car, was feeling guilty draining the oil out, it was still clean. And that's because I was using all the BG products. I was using really high quality oil. And obviously we're using genuine filters. And that engine will last forever. You know what I mean? And that's because the customer is trusting me to maintain it the way I want to maintain it, because I explained to him what this stuff does. You know, whereas when I first started using it, it was a hard sell. You felt you were pushing something on the customer, and customers are looking at you, another sales pitch, you know what I mean? Now it's just, I don't even try and sell it to the customer.
You know you're doing it.
They get it because it's part of the service now. That's and because when they do question why am I 100 or 150 quid dearer than my competitor around the corner, which is a good garage, good guys, because there is some of the people near me, and they're doing things differently, and that's fine. They want to do that. They have a different.
They want to do the turbos and the
Yeah,
DMPMs.
they have a different type of setup, you know what I mean? And that's fine. That's how they want to run their business. That's fine. But that's why we're a little bit more expensive, because we're just doing things a little bit differently. But our customers don't have the same problems. The cars aren't breaking down. I'm not getting phone calls. My car's on the way in a tow truck. Any of the cars come into us in tow trucks, they're not my customers.
Yeah, new customer.
New customers are people breaking down the motorway. DPFs coming in blocked, all them type of issues. They're not my customers.
Yeah, I think, and that's we have to be so careful as well with, because the BG is such a good product, particularly the EPR. We had a Merck as an example in the week before last, and I offered him the BG service, and he said, no, I'll just go with the standard one. Okay, so thankfully we didn't run the EPR on it, because this is where you could really, we hadn't seen this car in, and when we obviously drained the oil out of it and took the filter out, and the filter was like sludge. Now, if that car had come in and he said, we'll go with the EPR service, or the BG service as we call it, and we put the EPR in it, God knows, you do have to be careful with it as well. And as we said earlier, the correct applications.
Because equally, something could have happened.
Thankfully,
By just changing the oil in that,
Yeah.
that engine could have failed because they've been such bad condition.
destroyed the chain. See,
But
you have to remember, these yokes come into us when they're warm as well. So if you haven't seen your start,
don't hear
there's
that
no
cold start.
rattling. Whereas you left the yoke there even after the oil change, and again, Castrol oil went into it. New filter, and then you're outside, let it cool down, go for a start, and the noise of the chain and everything rattling, you're just like, oh.
I know JP had an issue with him because he was telling me before that he put the cleaner in, DPR in, and then he said he was changing oil filter. He noticed there was these like pieces of hardened carbon, that had been the oil filter. And he says, where'd that come from? I said, JP, that's an engine that hasn't been maintained, and it's back to, isn't it? It's a, yeah.
So you don't, when you put the EPR in, you wouldn't, the first thing you do is warm it up before it comes in. You don't take the filter out and inspect it.
Yeah.
So you could have easily got caught there with that one now,
And the problem is, and this is when I went over to Wichita last year with you, and I said to the guys, I says, these products are great at fixing this, and the EPR is great at fixing that, and the ORF is great at fixing this. And he goes, and they're looking at me, what are you fixing them with for? These aren't fixes, these are preventive maintenance products. Yeah. I mean, what? These are supposed to go in from day one. And then it's...
I think it all comes back to the last time we spoke, Keith, as well. Preventative maintenance is something that the three of you guys have taken on board. It's what you do. If you have a customer that comes in, and you haven't seen that customer and you're starting them off, obviously it comes back to diagnosis on a car. It's about knowing the history of the car. Where did you get it serviced before? What is the maintenance history? Was it main dealer? Was it not main dealer? And this is why we try and talk to garages about our products all the time. Like when we went to the States, one of the big things, you know, is the reduction. Like you've been talking about DPFs and EGRs and everything like that. And this is a headache for so many garages. But thankfully for a lot of our customers, it's not a headache at all. Like 65% reduction in ash content is pretty much what you're looking at. And when it comes back to newer technologies, this is the stumbling block. You know, older engines, fine. Yeah, you got your sills, you got rust issues, you've got loads of other things. But generally speaking, the engine was bulletproof. It would go forever. Like what we're seeing now is we're seeing ECUs, high pressure EGRs, low pressure EGRs. You got DPFs, you've got SCR type systems, three-way cats. You know, you've got newer oils, like lower viscosity oils that are coming in now, low tension piston rings. You've got less oil going into the system before. You've got, you know, high pressure common rail systems. The list keeps on going on, and you're going, something has to break. And now I think we're going up to Euro 7 emission standards, which are coming in. You like something has to give. And I think everything that we look at, and when you talk to the lads in R&D, like there's 100 people involved in the R&D labs and everything else back at BG. You know, we met them in the labs, you know, and when you go into where they're running to engines to destruction to find out where the carbon has come from, what's going on, the breather system on the cars, you know, the exhaust, what's actually happening in the EGR systems. But you know, it all comes back, like an engine is an engine at the end of the day, whether it's a big agricultural, you know, crone machine, or whether it's a small displacement engine. Everything works on compression. And with one of the things you probably spoke to Castrol about was low tension piston rings. And that is one of the biggest changes. And it's friction, it's lubrication, less friction in an engine, you know.
Less oil.
Well, less oil.
They want the oil to get up temperature.
Yeah. Well, less oil is one of the things, but I think less friction in an engine means the engine doesn't have to work as hard. It's all emission standards. It's all, you know, world standards on emissions, and something has to give. And what is given is the oils and the quality of the oils and the breakdown. And when you talk about DPFs, we have low SAP engine oils, low ash engine oils, low SAP engine oils. And one of the things that actually raised its head in the last week was the talk about zinc, and zinc is in our products and stuff like this. And, you know, zinc is a protection. You know, zinc is in oil. You know, that's what zinc is. You know, ZDDP, you know, zinc is in the highest protection of oil systems. And you know, one of the things that they had to take out of the oil was the likes of these. So you've got your sulfated ash, and that's like calcium, magnesium. I know I'm getting a bit technical on this now, but this is what blocks your DPF. You see your calcium, your magnesium. You used to have borons and stuff like that. But so it's low SAP, sulfated ash, phosphorus and sulfur. That's pretty much, and they had to strip all of the good stuff from the engine oils and balance them so that the after treatment devices don't block. Because when we talk about DPFs, what blocks a DPF by and large is the sulfated ash. Everybody talks about the ash and we can't get rid of the ash, and carbon and soot. And all that is coming from the oil burn off. But how is the oil going from the engine to the DPF? And a lot of what happens is it's fuel dilution. It's the acids that are built up in the oil.
One of the things I'd like to clear up, you know, because a few people have said to me, you must be getting an absolute fortune off BG.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
get
yeah,
that
you
all
do
the
too.
time.
Yeah. But the reality is, we don't. You know, Kieran's been
Can't give you nothing.
Gives you a nice bottle of whiskey at Christmas.
You got whiskey.
I got a lovely bottle of whiskey. I had red breast, 12-year-old. I drank it all. I had a hangover for a week.
Don't give Sean the whiskey.
I check his invoices to make sure I actually got what he charged me for.
You get
I'm only
invoices too.
joking.
So, and
sorry,
just
sorry, Kieran, I couldn't help.
You okay, Keith?
he loves it. He loves it.
Yeah.
So, if people read, they don't understand it. When I'm sitting here and I'm doing my Instagram videos during the week, and I'm saying, I'm putting my BG and this and that and other, and the other, oh, look at him, he's getting paid. I'm not, right? I will say, Certa Ireland, who are the official distributor of Castrol, have been kind enough to sponsor this podcast, as has BG Products Ireland. So we have two main sponsors, and that's providing and helping to pay for the actual video, because it's quite expensive to video these things. There's not many podcasts that are videoed in the quality and edited in the quality that this particular podcast is. And people have come back and said to us, so we're happy with that. And it's also brought good sponsors on board. But as regards what we do in our day-to-day business, we only use the products that we're happy with, and we only talk about the products we're happy with. So just when we speak about BG products and things like that, we're talking about products that we know we've used. And the three of us are sitting here, isn't it great, isn't it great, isn't it great? You nearly swear we're...
Well, it is a good product, and there's nothing wrong with advertising it, that you're using it.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. And JP's doing a great job down in Cork. JP's organising he's having a conference, if you will, in August. And if anyone's interested, he's organising a lot of like-minded garage people. He's bringing Andy Sav over. He's bringing Tina Drayson. She's from an award-winning garage in the UK. He's bringing another guy that he works closely with. He's a coach. And there's James Dillon's coming over. James is one of the top trainers in the UK. JP's doing that out of the goodness of his own health, to help people to raise the bar. The same reason we're doing these podcast things like that, we're trying to raise the bar of the independents, and it's working on people. So when we start talking about, Joe, we use this and this works for us, and we use this works for us, and people use different oils and people use different products, and this, we're going to talk about what works, what didn't work. But when we're talking about these products, it's what works. Okay, so
And don't knock it till you tried it.
don't drink them, right? But so when I want to go on that, because we were sort of going down we were chatting there about the cleaner engines and how the thing works. So what I actually ran off down, if anyone notice something's changed on our set here, so there's a line of stuff behind me. I think the easiest way to describe your products is, this is what we do every day. And people who watch my social media would see every car that comes in here gets an engine performance restore, which is also known as an engine flush. Now, we're at a stage where we believe that much in the product, and again, it's not a sales thing, right? Because people will say, "Oh, you're doing that to sell it, or whatever." We're not, because it takes 20 minutes in the car. The job takes 20 minutes longer because you have to let the thing go in and do its job. It's not just as quick as it out, but we know it's doing it better. The car's going to last longer and have less hassle. So, Chris, you'll be familiar with them. Kieran, this product, really what it's doing, that goes in first in the power of service. What people don't realise as well is that we, as mechanics, we're dissimilar. It's like going to a doctor. It's like going to a dentist for your teeth, a doctor for your health. We're the doctors and the dentist for your car. Or maybe the body man's the dentist, and we're the doctors. The doctor's going to recommend, if you go into a doctor and say, he's going to tell you your blood's low, you need this. There's something wrong with you, you need this. You're going into a doctor to get prescribed something. When you go into a mechanic, if the mechanic's doing the best job for you, if he goes in and just does an oil change and throw you out the door, that is not, if that was a doctor, if you went into a doctor, I've an awful sore pain in my arm, stick a bandage on it, put one of them heat pads on it, right? Good luck. Give me 50 quid. Go down the road, get a heat pad. You're back next week with the same thing. So if that doctor doesn't look in and advise you what's best for your arm or whatever's wrong with you, he's not a very good doctor. Whereas, and the same for mechanics and garages. If the mechanic at the garage is not advising you what's best for your car, you're not actually doing your customer any justice. And a lot of mechanics will feel, oh, I'm not selling this because the customer's going to think I'm you know what I mean, I'm on a sale here. We're not. We're telling the customer what is best for your car. We're all at it a long time. You're at it the longest out of all of us. And we're at a point where we know what works. We know what doesn't work. We don't talk about what doesn't work because we're not interested in talking. We're not interested in talking down other mechanics. We're not interested in talking down products. but we do talk about it a lot. What does work? So first DPR goes into an engine, and when you get your oil change, Kieran, right in saying, once you have a good quality oil, there's a clean additive in that oil. So when you put that new oil into your car, that clean additive gets to work for around 1,000 kilometres or so. All of it goes around, cleans your engine, and all of a sudden that dirt and carbon that it's just cleaned is now going around your engine for the next 14,000 kilometres or until you change your oil again. Whereas what we're doing with the engine performance restore, it's going into your oil before you drop it out. It's cleaning your engine. We have a fine example of it over here, which we'll take a shot of in a while. The engine is clean, so when you're dropping the oil out of that, you're not carrying that dirt and carbon and crap around for another 14,000 kilometres. You've gone and cleaned the thing, and you're dropping it out then. As you say, it's like a shampoo for an engine nearly.
Yeah, well, look at all of you are buying good quality oil, and you want the oil to do the best job that it was designed to do. And it really comes back to cleaner engines work better than dirty engines. It's plain and simple, you know, and the cleaner the engine, the better the car is going to perform, both fuel economy, you're going to have less lights coming on in the dash, you're going to have less after treatment device issues. Bottom line, cleaner engines work better than dirty engines. Oils are manufactured with additive packs.
Yeah.
So you've got your base oil and you've got your additive pack. In that additive pack are dispersants and detergents. We'll make it simple. So they're unique to that engine oil. And what they do is they have to clean, they have to have film strength to hold the dirt, bring it back to the filter and do its job. If you put that clean oil into a dirty engine, it has to work twice as hard. It's going to use up that additive pack twice as quick, and it's a knock-on effect. So
service after service after service,
yeah,
without a cleaning agent,
exactly.
it's more dirt, more,
Yeah.
and as it, yeah.
And the problem is that in the older engines, you used to get away with it a lot more because they didn't have DPFs. They didn't have low pressure EGR systems now, you know.
They didn't have stuff that was going to get clogged.
Exactly.
Fire out the exhaust and keep going.
Yeah, and away you go. They might have had a bit of a performance drop in the car, but it didn't bother them because the lights weren't going off. Now they're like a Christmas tree, you know, and when the lights go off in the car, it's, oh no, like it's costly because whether it's a sensor or whether it's a pipe that's blocked or whether it's anything, nothing is cheap on cars nowadays. And when people get the bill from you, Chris, or you, Keith, and they go, why is it so expensive? It never cost me this much before. Every single thing has gone up in cost, you know, including the likes of the labour, having the lads in the garage. I think you mentioned, Chris, when you came in, was it 8 lads in your garage?
Well, four lads on the floor plus me, that's 5. Then a front of house, van driver, and an accountant.
Yep. So like it's an expensive show to keep on the road.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at the likes of what's going on, you know, you don't want expensive problems for your customers. The bottom line is that we want happy customers that come in and go with a performance level on their car that they go, geez, the car is running well. It's funny, like I was in a garage and this is where you get the divide. You get the second generation and the first generation. And a garage I've been dealing with a long time, he uses my fuel products on everything. He goes, nothing like it, Kieran, your fuel product is brilliant. I love it. He goes, people come back and ask me for it. And I said, great. I said, but you don't use the engine product. He goes, no. He says, I use good oil. He says, I don't need your product. And I said, okay. So I didn't push it. He goes, and besides, he goes, it's going to block up everything and it's going to cause me trouble and all the rest of it. And I said, no, I said, you've been using good oil all along. But anyway, I left it. But his son joined him and his son is now an apprentice there. And his son came out to me one day and he said, will you give me a few of those kits, Kieran? He goes, I have a few of my friends' cars that are coming in and they've asked me for it. And he goes, also, I want to do my own car. And the dad was there, no. The dad rang me only a week or two ago and he goes, give me a few cases of that stuff with the cleaner. He goes, all those engines sounded completely different. He goes, I couldn't get over it. And I said, well, it still comes back, John. I said, your customers that you've been servicing with the good quality oil, I said, that's fine. I said. But back to your one, Keith, if there's a customer that comes in that you haven't been looking after, you don't know the history on the car, know when to hold them. You know, like, you got to be careful because there's different products for different things. And that's where the training element comes in. Like, I trust everything that you guys are doing in your garage because you know the product, you've used it. But I've been into every one of your garages and I've spoken to the lads and you all know the story. But when we start with a new customer and we get calls all the time, I need that BG stuff. I've got a load of cars coming in with sludge. And you're like, whoa, hold on a second.
Oh, it's a bad idea.
Yeah, it's
Bad
not what we
idea.
do. Like, this is, you know, the best preventative product that's out there. You know, it's massive amounts of R&D have gone into it. You know, it's endorsed by manufacturers. Like, this product is what it says on the tin. You know, but putting it into sludge and neglected cars to try and fix a problem, that's not what it is. It's preventative. So
I know for a fact it works, and I tell you why, right? My son bought a 2014 Golf GTI, right? And we all know they burned a little bit of oil, right? The car was well maintained because nobody oil in it. You open the oil cap, you could see in it was well maintained, right? But he was saying my dad's using a lot of oil, so we flushed it with the EPR, right? And put the products into it, right? Cleaned it, right? Cleaned it. Let it run for about half an hour before we changed the oil in it, right? Serviced it, put all the products into it. And then we measured how much oil it was burning over the next month or two. It's not burning oil. It was obviously a sticking oil ring on the car and it was allowing oil past. And that was it. Now with the Golf, they all burn oil. I'm not saying it's cured it completely, but it was drinking oil. It's not now. It's not now. You know what I mean? You see, you doesn't really have to top it up anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's pouring small bit of oil, does his regular oil change or whatever, you know, but it works. And the fuel stuff is amazing. I think I told you this story. We did Skoda come into us, right? Wasn't even that old, 4-year-old Skoda. Was running like a bag of shit, like just shaking like crazy. And he's had to be in somewhere else and they told him he needed a new fuel system, new injectors, pump. Like, the bill was astronomical. Says, let me have a look at it. I'm not saying it doesn't need this, but let me have a look at it. So I took the fuel filter out. And I could see all contamination down the end of the bowl. So we just sucked all the stuff out, cleaned the bowl, got a new filter and put the 245 into it, right? And we left it running outside for about 2 hours. Came out after 2 hours, thing was running sweet as a nut. I think I still have a video of it. My brother couldn't believe it. He says, that stuff is amazing. Rang the customer, says, your car's ready. Charged him the 2 hours labour plus the 245. They couldn't believe it. She said, what did you replace? Nothing. Nothing. Dirty fuel system. Injector sticking.
Yeah, so to stick to oil with your EPR, right? And people will say, well, sure, if you're buying the dealer's oil you can get your hands on, why would you need it? But what people don't realise is, I mean, your mechanic, your local garage, your good mechanic that's interested in his job, Chris, Keith, ourselves, all the other guys, Large, JP, we don't just go, I'll just give you that can of oil. We're not just walking into a motor factory and that's the first one we see. We want to know what's in it. So when you get your oil, and we had this conversation with Castrol, the oil's designed to work. It's developed with the cars, the people that make the engines, but it's developed to work over X amount of miles in these conditions. Now, equally, we spoke about different conditions in Russia. Certain oil freezing, we spoke about in the last thing. There was a problem with a certain oil that when everyone started a car, Russia got a cold snap, was -40, everyone started a car, the oil froze. You know, next thing all of a sudden there was a big issue. With a certain brandy car, the oil was changed and now withstands colder temperatures. But there's different applications and different oils. But there's too many. But the problem is the oil companies are being forced by not the manufacturers, but on the government level to reduce emissions. And the only way to reduce emissions is to go thinner oil, and you're losing your lubrication property.
but bearing in mind that and this is one of the things as well, it flummoxes a lot of people. You know, a lot of garages will standardize on an oil or whatever it is, and everything is manufactured differently, but some of the car companies that have gone to a 0-20 and they've had massive problems, you know, and don't forget, like a lot of technology and R&D goes into the manufacture of your 0-20s. We're 0-16 engine oils. We're now down to 0-8 engine oils that are coming out. A lot of technology has gone into these oils, but also the problem is that with the newer engine technologies as well, they were designed to do a certain thing, but that's not what we're doing. We're blitzing everything. That's what's killing the 0-20s. You know, one of the major brands in Ireland, you know, uses wet belts, and wet belt technology, you know, as great as it is on paper for the likes of fuel economy, less friction,
It's an engineering disaster. I think whoever invented it needs a slap of a wet belt. We need to be bet with the thing.
We spoke about it last week though with Castrol, and it's all just less friction, because less friction is
Purely
less
friction.
emissions.
Which is
stupid idea.
the exact same as low tension piston rings. Low tension piston rings is because it has less friction.
But it's all government driven. You have to remember that. It's driven by people who don't know their arse and their elbow. Excuse me, French.
Yeah, but they'll have a target in mind as well regarding emissions and climate and that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
So
but the way these targets have been met are they're achievable short term, but the engines are falling apart. So just to keep going what we're talking about, and to debunk a few myths about the likes of EPR, one, let's talk about solvents.
Yes.
So, right, people say, oh, it's a solvent, but equally, Kieran, what's that?
Water.
What's that? How classes?
Solvent.
So, water is a solvent.
I guess what people look at, I think one of the things, solvents and everything else, solvent is something that can be mixed with another product. So oil, and you mix into oil, it's gotta have solvent. You know, water is a solvent, but too much water will drown you. You know, so it's about having the right balance. You know, you can't put a non-soluble product into a soluble product because they won't mix. So you got to have solvent. So to say that, oh, our one isn't a solvent, you know, that's nonsense, because if you're pouring a product into another product, it's a solvent. Yeah. The solvent is the carrier of a product. Now, what's in the solvent solvents are designed to evaporate. That's what, when you have an aerosol and you spray an aerosol, the carrier for the aerosol generally is a solvent. You spray it, the cleaner does its job, the solvent evaporates. It's why you see the likes of brake cleaner, and it'll evaporate. No different than this product. So it's a light oil is what EPR is, and it's designed to go in, and because it's lighter, you know, it carries the likes of your dispersants and cleaners in it, and then the evaporation process happens. So if you were to leave this in an engine, it will do its cleaning. You won't get the benefit on it, but the product will evaporate. It'll be fine. But the cleaning and the dropping of the old oil and the dispersant technology will wear out, because what that's actually doing is it's holding that dirt, it's breaking down the dirt, it holds it in suspension so that when you drop the oil, it takes all that dirt out with it. That's what it's designed to do. But the most advantageous part of that product is, I guess, it very much works on the rings. Your son's car, you know, the compression, where they're losing that oil, it works very much on the compression. If you do a compression test before and after using the product, you'll find that the compression has gone up. So, you know, that's really what it's doing. And to say, oh, ours isn't a solvent or this one is a solvent, that's a myth.
And equally to turn around and say, and you know, you have to laugh at when people come up. You mean, we spoke about during the week, oh, stuff coming around, people say zinc in your product. Like, all right, well, hang on, right? So they're crying about zinc in a product, which we know is a natural lubricant, right? So it's a good thing. But for me, for someone to go online and say, oh, there's zinc in an engine cleaner, right? As long as that engine cleaner is going to be in that engine, 20 minutes. So you put a lubricant in the engine for 20 minutes before you drop it out to clean your engine. right? It's only in 20 minutes, but then you have people go. To me, you have a lot of people that they don't actually know what they're talking about.
Well,
Isn't it?
there'd be no advantage to putting zinc in it because
No, but
zinc
no, but
is.
even if there was,
Yeah, I know, but even if there
like
was,
what odds?
it wouldn't make any
Free air for
difference.
20 minutes.
It's a protectant,
Yeah.
so it would make no odds. But the fact of the matter is, there isn't. The sensitive part. You know, somebody asked me. There was a classic car company, not a company, but an enthusiast down the country, and he's rebuilding American classic cars, old kind of flat tappets and stuff like that. And where camware is massive on the flat tappets, you know. We're now all on kind of rollers and stuff, so it's different type process. But back in the day, all your classic racing oils and everything like that would have massive amounts of zinc in them. And to put it in perspective, a high zinc oil would be roughly, you'd have 1500 ppms worth of zinc in that. But the problem that we have nowadays is with the OEM requirements for an engine oil, they have to be halved. And zinc was your extreme pressure additive in an oil. That was all the good stuff. Like if you had an old classic car, a racing engine, you want a high zinc oil in it because that's the protection. But if you've got a DPF in your car and you've got an after treatment device in your car, that's a no-no. So all of that has to be manufactured. Now oils are manufactured from roughly 400 ppms to 800 ppms of zinc. So they've had to lower, but it's a balance of different things like calcium and magnesium that goes in. They're all your dispersants. They're all if you look at a barrel of oil, 80% of the oil is your base oil. You know, you got your 20% additive pack, but 80% of the cost is in the 20% additive pack. That's all the additives that are in there, and they're the good stuff. But
there's only going to be just enough additives. That's the thing. It's not 50% additives because in Doyle will be mega bucks. So they have to draw the line at how much additives they can put in. Yeah. So it's literally just get to the specification, and you have to stop because otherwise you couldn't afford Doyle.
Well, I think that this is the thing. And again, we spoke actually before the cameras were rolling, Keith, on the likes of your 5W30, your 0W30s, your 0W20s. What's the difference? And I think you went through some of that with the likes of Castrol and stuff. But this is one of the biggest stumbling blocks I get every day. I get lads that will be putting in a Volkswagen, say 504, 507, into a Peugeot. And the newer Peugeot oil, for instance, the RPC oil, is a supercharged oil, but they've had to make that supercharged for lots of different reasons.
Supercharged money, who?
Supercharged money as well, yeah. But that's a 5W30. And people think that one 530 is the same as another 530 is the same as... that there is a variance between them. And that comes back to, you know, an oil company that has a 504, 507 standard. And then you have another one that has a 504, 507, historically old standard, but their one has a lot more in it.
But the other thing on that note, you'll have people saying, well, look, sure, me 504, 507 is perfect in the Ford. It's overkill for a Ford engine. You know what I mean? The Ford engine's a PSA 1.6 HDI engine, or the Ford called the TDCI engine, or the 1.5s as they now are. The Peugeot variant, which is the exact same engine, has, you say, the supercharged oil, and they recommend you do use it or you're going to have trouble. But people say, well, sure, it's good enough for the Ford's going to be the same. It's not, because you have to remember, Ford don't use the same DPF, the exhaust after treatment that Peugeot use. Peugeot have this set up where they put the Eloise fluid in after, you have to spray it in on top of the DPF. Ford don't have that. Ford have a typical... Now, saying that, Ford has just issued a global recall on all DPFs. If they don't pass the test, Ford put a new DPF in for free. So maybe there's something the Peugeot did right that Ford didn't do. But again, it's down to knowing. It's trusting your mechanic to know what is in your car and to advise you the right thing to do. And to be honest with you, if you're not willing to do what the mechanics advise you, I'm fine with people. I advise anyone, right, this is what we recommend you do. No, I'm grand, that's all right. But the problem we have with the people that say no, they don't want it. If it's a financial thing, that's fine. There's no problem. But if the car fails or something goes wrong, because they didn't listen to your advice. Then they go around and start bad mouthing you, telling you, oh, Sean did this and that, or Keith was working at this and everything blew up. And then you hear about it on a Facebook page or a Google reviews, but you didn't do what I told you to do. And now so there's a bit of darkness. It all boils down to find your mechanic that knows his stuff, that's using top tier quality products, that's using original equipment specified products. We haven't spoke about this in this episode, but when you go to the States, these come branded Jaguar, Land Rover, just done a deal, big deal with Ford branded. In the Middle East, they come branded with Auto Select, which is Toyota aftermarket. And all the main manufacturers globally, outside of Europe, but it's the same engines, are putting their name on these cans. So for someone to turn around and say, in a Land Rover workshop, to turn around and say, oh, I can't use that because the Ingenium engines
Why
are
is that?
rubbish.
Why is that they're doing in America, and there's a lot of places in Europe here I'm not doing it?
I think
the manufacturer, isn't it?
OEMs and the strength of OEMs, and I think when it comes to R&D testing, and don't forget, like money is the big thing, and the driver, and an OEM wants his pound of flesh. They want their name on it, because they want a cut in the action, and that's where a lot of it comes. Like, if you were to look at our business in Ireland and in Europe and mainland Europe, it would be quite weak with the likes of the OEMs, whereas we would be very strong with the independents, because there is this mentality, and it is changing. It's changing because of the newer technology, the newer oils and everything else. But that old school mentality of if the manufacturer doesn't say to use it, I don't need to use
Yeah, that's
it.
what. Yeah, so I'm right in saying though, a lot of the dealers in Ireland, they wouldn't, main dealers now.
Yeah, well, fuel is one thing, and a lot of them would recommend the fuel product. But a lot of dealers, pretty much, it's servicing to the level that, say, Hyundai or Kia or Nissan or whoever it might be will be there. And when a problem arises,
It's a bare minimum, though.
yeah, there'll be, like, even with the likes of Volkswagen, and everybody knows Volkswagen have issues with the high pressure common rail system, but they have a TSB that's out there that goes, before you strip, use cleaner. They have their own branded one, but they're not a manufacturer of treatments. They're not a manufacturer of oils or anything like that. They have to go to a company to have that manufactured, and their R&D are the ones that do it. So the walls are slowly coming down. It's like the Berlin Wall, bit by bit. It's coming down, and attitudes are changing, because there is no way that the manufacturers, with the newer technology, and we're seeing a lot of problems with the newer technology. 10 years of age is the age of an average age of a car in Ireland. So if you were to look at that, so that's back in 2015, 14, those engines by and large were okay. They weren't the worst. You look at the engines that are up at 2021, 2022, 2023, it's a headache, and this is the biggest
It would be a
thing.
fortune to do anything with one.
Well, that's the problem. A lot of the problems could be prevented, and back to the word preventative maintenance, they could be prevented. Like, the manufacturers wouldn't get such a bad name. Like, why have wet belts got a bad name? Wet belts, by and large, have gone through, like, their elastomers and seals and everything else. These products are not bad on them. You'll hear the manufacturer go, oh, you're not allowed to use this on a wet belt because it'll damage. There are a lot of untested products in the marketplace.
There's another myth about this. People say, can you use it in a IVR stock, can you use it in a wet belt? All I would say is, we have vehicles at over 300,000 kilometres, vans on the road every day. They've been coming here from day one since the owner bought them. Right? Anyone that watches our videos know who I'm talking about. Over 300,000, and we inspect the wet belts at every service, and they're leaking out. There's no problem. So while we all give out about wet belts, and Chris says he loved to put the man that design them into a box.
But it wasn't great technology.
It wasn't a great idea.
For years they said, don't ever let a belt touch oil.
Yeah.
For years, don't ever let a belt touch oil.
Yeah.
It'll destroy it.
Yeah, if you've an oil leak and it hits your tiny belt.
Then they went and they put an elastomer in. But you see, this is the thing. They didn't just put it in oil. They put it in oil which has heavy dilution. They put it in massively contaminated oil. Like, something has to give. And, you know, add on 40,000 kilometre drain intervals. Like, what do you expect is going to happen?
I could still to this day cannot get my head around the service intervals dealers put out. And I'm going back when I worked in Renault back in 1991, right? 1991, right? The service intervals in Renault were perfect service intervals. They used to recommend changing your oil every 5,000 miles. We used to do 5,000 mile services is what we used to do in Renault back all them years ago. But since then, I've noticed a drastic change. Some of the manufacturers are saying 30,000 kilometres. Just the state of engines coming in with 30,000 kilometres, especially cars with DPFs and cars being driven short journeys. The oil's like sand by the time it comes. There's nothing left in it. It's just like, there's nothing lubricating. And by that stage,
It goes red. It goes red in the
there's
Renault.
no product on this planet is going to fix that then. The damage done, that's it. You can use whatever product you want. You can use oil from God himself. It's not going to fix it. Do you know what I mean? So
on that note, folks, if you want godly oil, no, Nolan Mohawks in Balbriggan.
and now
that's
doing
your
holy
spot.
oil.
Best man is Chris Nolan's performing miracles on a daily basis at 12 o'clock.
No, but like, so it all comes down to preventative maintenance. Like I done we had guys in the other day, a media company doing videos in the garage, and I said to them, like, if I could convince my customers to change their oil every 10,000 kilometres, that's what I would be doing. Because that's what I do on my own car, on my missus's car. I change oil every 10,000 kilometres. Our walk van every 10,000 kilometres. Because that's what works, that's what keeps the vehicle optimum health. We're taking oil filters out, they're still clean. You know, I know it's expensive for the customer, and I know that, I get that it would be maybe a stretch too far for some people to be changing or servicing their vehicles every 10,000 k.
We used to every 3,000 miles.
You know, but some people don't have the money, and I get that, you know what I mean? But like, you have to be using this stuff from the start, or when the vehicle's fairly fresh and it has a good service history.
Keep it clean.
Yeah, so you could have a customer that's not been in with you before, comes into you after 3 years, but they've been getting their vehicle serviced regular and it's in good health. This is still perfect to use. But when somebody comes into you and they haven't been changing the oil for 30,000, 35,000, and you come in then and you expect a miracle, it's too late. It's like going to the doctor and you've terminal cancer, and you know what I mean? He's not going to be able to do anything for you. There's no treatment that's going to fix you. So it is about educating the customer, preventative maintenance every 15k, using the right products, the right oil, and it saves you the initial being handed the bill for, say it's a BMW, 526 quid for the service. People are like, ugh. But it's going to save you thousands in the long run. You know what I mean?
And realistically, how much cheaper are you going to get it done? Like 526, it is a lot of money, but
That's
like,
cheap. For a BMW,
yeah, absolutely.
it's
That's
cheap.
what I was going to say to you. So, like, I mean, how much cheaper are you going to get it? Like another 100 quid off.
But I have
426.
noticed, and sometimes I look at my invoices and I'll second check them because, geez, that looks dear. Because everything has gone up in price. Like, and one of the cars I've noticed that is probably one of the more expensive run-of-the-mill cars to service is an Opel. I'd be looking at a servicing on an Opel diesel. It's always up around 429, 430, something like that. Whereas you might get a Volkswagen and it's like 100 quid cheaper. The Opel seems to be a little bit more expensive. You know,
Some
what
of
I mean?
the air filters for the Oaks now are
Yeah,
€65. Like,
Like BMWs and Mercs are up there. Merc will be around 600 quid for a service because, yeah, it's so expensive. Like, if you use right oil by using these products, put no filters into it and stuff like that, it's a little bit more expensive to service. But you're saving this. You're still. I just say that I know it's expensive, but you're saving thousands in the long run. You're not going to have an issue with a DPF. You're not going to have a turbo blowing. You're not going to have problems with your fuel injectors. You know what I mean? You're not going to have take injectors out to replace injector washers. You know, with all this, people don't realise how important changing the oil on a regular basis is actually going to save you
But it's funny you say that. Like I've definitely seen a switch around in the last week or two. I know that one of the major brands, OEM brands in the country, have now gone 10,000 kilometer drain interval. You know, and this is new, and they were one of the ones who were up at 30,000 kilometer drain intervals. So to go from 30,000 to 20,000, now down to 10,000, that's massive. So that's telling you that if an OEM is changing the service interval from 30 to 20 to 10, that's telling you that there's something going on in there, like from a lubrication side of things, and they only do that when the warranty starts outweighing everything. Because it's a money thing. Because generally speaking, when you look at a main dealer battery, you buy your new car and the battery's in it. That battery generally lasts you for a good 8 years or whatever it is. The first battery that's in the car. The next one you put in the car, it has aftermarket battery. It's got all the same letters and everything else, you know, same cranking and all the 3 years. It pretty much makes it to the 3 years and then it dies. Or, you know, brake pads. You look at the first set of brake pads you put in a car, which is from the manufacturer. They last for forever. You put the second set on, everything.
But it goes back, Roy, you might be getting off a little bit off the topic here, but like, just let's say a BMW, right, or a Volkswagen, right? Once you start fitting cheap aftermarket parts, right, that BMW, it's no longer a BMW. I tried to explain this to a customer the other day. They wanted, you know, the banana arms on the front of the 5 Series with the big bush on it, right? So I wanted to fit them 40 arms, right, which is an OE product, right? It's as good, if not better than a BMW product, right? And then you have your cheap aftermarket stuff. And I'm trying to tell this fella with a 3-year-old BMW, you fit that stuff into your car, it's not a BMW anymore. It's an aftermarket.
It's an aftermarket car.
It's an aftermarket car.
Aftermarket car.
It's going to be a bone shaker.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to drive like a BM anymore. It won't. You fit them cheap brake pads and this. It's not going to stop like a BMW. It's not. You know what I mean?
Or a Mercedes or whatever.
So that's why you come into me.
It's a very good way of putting it.
I'm putting brakes into your car. It's £1,000 for say an M Sport, right? Because you're fitting those split discs, right? To fit them, then everything has to be clean meticulously. You have to put them, torque everything in sequence. You can't just throw the disc on. You can't even turn the wheel.
Oh, not them split ones.
You have to use the steering wheel to straighten up.
You have to tighten the wheel nuts.
Everything has to be torqued correctly. You have to use Loctite on the carriers. It's like, it takes so long to fit them correctly. But I'm trying to convince the guy that, right, I know you can get the cheap aftermarket split discs, or you can fit genuine or Brembo discs, but your car's no longer a BMW. It's not going to stop like a BMW, won't drive like a BMW. It's the same with fitting cheap filters. Car's not going to breathe like a BMW anymore. Won't. It's just simple.
I love that. I love that analogy.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it's all right thing, because when BMW come in and say, keep your car BMW, we're like, shut up. We know we get their parts. But
it's not.
When you do put the cheap ones on, you're right.
And even when you hold the parts in your hand, like I had this Lem 40 arm, it was off an X5 actually, right? In my hand, I have this cheap aftermarket. They don't even look the same. The Lem 40 one, like, you could do bicep curls with it, you know what I mean? This other thing you could snap, you know what I mean? So that's the difference. That's the difference. And like,
but one of the last things I'm going to touch is that sometimes, and I get a lot of stick on social media from guys that open the main dealers, say, no, and you know, I done an Instagram clip there a few months back of, we spoke about oils and why CR20s were a bad job. We should really be using a 530. And I get a lot of stick from guys working with these. Oh no, you should definitely never deviate from what the manufacturer specifies. And the problem is, when you're in the main dealer and you believe the main dealer or the manufacturer's thing, you're no longer.
See, they're not believing it. In fairness, I think that they're given a set of criteria that they just have to stick with it.
They can stick to the criteria, but they still know what's the right thing to do. Whereas they don't. They believe it. It's drilled into them. This is the way to do it. This is the whatever manufacturer.
You'll be servicing cars at 15,000 instead of 30,000.
No, they'll
was the right
tell you.
You know what I mean?
people from main dealers on social media going to me, you shouldn't be servicing, 30,000 is fine. Oh, you shouldn't use 530. Volkswagen specify a 0W20 and you should only use that. The problem with that is these guys aren't seeing these cars out of warranty. We're seeing them, we're first hand with them, and we know that the oil that was specified for that car might be fine up to maybe 50 or 60 or even 100,000 kilometres. Across 100,000 kilometres, there's a lot of wear and tear. There's a lot of miles on it.
I stopped using 0-20 in Vags. It's 530.
Water, yeah.
530 all the way, and now the cars don't burn oil. They don't use the oil, you know. 0-20 at a certain amount of mileage in the Volkswagens, they drink it.
Yeah. So it's down to, you know, it's not even trial and error. It's about talking to people that knows what works, have invested in their knowledge, and want to do the job right for you. So look, I hope that was of some. We have a lot more to go through. We have a few more products here with Kieran. We'd like to go through. I thought we'll go through there, but this alone has sort of gone on a wee bit. Thanks very much for taking the time to watch this. Thanks, Chris. Thanks so much for coming down to this. Kieran, again, thanks for coming down. And Keith, we hope you enjoyed this. Talk to you soon.